Investing News Network, and I'm here with Mike Alkin, founder of the Stock Catalyst Report. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So I wanted to just talk about uranium to start off with.
Sure.
So we saw Cameco announce a suspension of production at the McArthur River, and that's starting in 2018. And also Kazakhstan has announced another production cut. And so what kind of effects will this have on the market? What can people look for?
Sure. It should have great effect because McArthur River is the largest producing mine in the world. The Kazakhs are the largest producer in the world, and they've announced a 20% production cut over 3 years. So it should have a dramatic impact. You know, Melissa, primary mine supply is already it's already in a deficit. The market is filled by secondary supply. So this just exacerbates that downward pressure on supply.
And the other thing that we've seen happen too is in Japan, TEPCO has gotten permission for a reactor restart. So can you talk a little bit about that? You know, maybe there's some sentiment changing towards nuclear?
There is for years, and the bull market in uranium has been delayed because people were expecting it to come online post-Fukushima a year later, 2 years later. But there's been a lot of local level pressure from the local citizens, the local governors, who didn't want it to come back online. But the Abe government, the national government, does support it, and so he was just reelected, and you're starting to see some momentum turn there.
And can we talk a little bit about demand as well, in terms of reactor builds and what we're seeing around the world in terms of nuclear power demand?
Sure. So last year was the biggest record on year in 25 years for nuclear power being connected to the grid. This coming year are 16 reactors that are coming online, which is significant. There are about 440 operating around the world. Nuclear power is a growth industry, and I don't think people recognize that. It's a 3% grower, and it's needed, it's baseload, it's clean. So the demand story for nuclear is pretty good, pretty solid.
And what can we say in terms of the Trump administration, too, and in terms of the climate in the U.S. regarding nuclear power?
Sure. Very friendly. So far, they've shown that. Secretary Perry has signed a secretarial determination earlier in the year to reduce the amount of secondary supply sold into the market. And just recently, just this week, Energy Fuels and UR Energy filed a petition with the government to take a look at the amount of imports of uranium that are coming into the market, and they want something done about that. You know, the U.S. consumes 50 million pounds a year of uranium. It only produces 2.9 million pounds. So we import 95%. 40% of that comes from Russia and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. So we are in a perilous, the U.S. is in a perilous energy security situation. So I think the Trump administration will prove to be friendly towards uranium.
And when can we expect it to take off? There's been a lot of speculation last year, now into this year.
Yep. You know, it's hard because so much good has happened in the last 6 months. You know, we talk about Cameco, we talk cutting production, the Kazakhs cut production. Converdyne, which is a conversion facility, shut their plants, took that offline. Abe, as you talked about. All of this thing just takes a little bit of time to work into the market, and when the utilities who have 30% of their demand uncovered by 2020, it takes them 2 years ahead of time to order. So we're pushing up against, we're in 2018 now. So sooner or later, and I think this year the rubber has to hit the road for them.
And so I was attending your presentation, and I noticed that you mentioned there are two factors of trouble ahead, and you talked about the auto industry.
Yep.
Maybe you can just go into that a bit.
Sure. The auto industry has done very well for the last several years. Post the financial crisis, there was stimulation to get car sales going. In the U.S., you saw the number of cars go from 9 million sold annually to 18 million, right under 18 million sold. And what happened with that was after the financial crisis, you saw a shortage of used cars, and it caused used car pricing to go up. And as used car pricing goes up, that drives the residual value higher, so that makes cars more affordable. One of the affordability factors is leasing. So there are a tremendous amount of cars the last few years that have been leased, and now those are expiring and coming off lease, and that's starting to put pressure on used cars. And used cars are a key barometer for what new cars are going to do. So as used car pricing falls down, it should start to simulate new cars, but you're not seeing that. The decline is starting to show. The other thing that's troubling for me with the auto sector is 20% of loans originated for automobiles are from the subprime sector. Those with credit scores below 620. That's a big number. $1.2 trillion goes to automotive debt, and over $200 billion of that is to the subprime. The troubling part of that is the default rates on those loans are approaching 10%, and that's the same level they were at the global financial crisis. So I think as you see residual values starting to fall, leasing becomes more expensive. You have a lot of cars coming off lease, pressuring the market. I just think it's a tough time to be a car maker right now.
So do you see auto sales slowing down in the U.S. then because of these?
Yeah, 2018, I think you'll probably see auto sales. They dipped about 1.5%, 2% in 2017. I think you'll see the same decline in 2018. And I think you see a reverberation, is my guess, throughout the supply chain, from the auto part manufacturers to the car retailers, auto finance companies. The auto finance companies own 70% of the market share of that subprime, and that's a big number. That's over $200 billion.
And so one of the metals that really depends on the auto industry for most of its success is palladium, and we saw that take off in 2017.
Yeah.
The U.S. is a huge car market. Do you think that could have any impact?
You know, I don't have a view on palladium. Really,
okay,
for that.
no worries.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much out of questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No, I think we've talked about a lot of it. From a uranium perspective, I just think, and people have been patient for a long time, but they've been patient without a lot of hope. They've just focused on Japanese reactors. Now you've had dominoes starting to fall, and the utilities are going to need to come into the market soon. So I think we're at an inflection point.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So I'm Melissa Shaw with the Investing News Network, here with Mike Alkin of the Stock Catalyst Report at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference.